Okay, this is our Tampa Bay IIBA CBAP study group. Today is May 14th. We're on Chapter 7. Let's talk about Chapter 7 just a little bit in case somebody forgot and didn't study. Chapter 7 is the only chapter in the knowledge areas that has 6 tasks. Chapter 7 is very much like Chapter 6. Chapter 6 talks, let me just go back. It talks about current state, future state, assess risk, and define change strategy. That's a really high level perspective. And y'all did great getting through that, but now we're getting a little bit deeper into it. And we're going to do basically the same thing a little bit more deeply, focusing on requirements. We're going to specify and model requirements. Then we're going to go into verify requirements and validate requirements. I'll come back to those in just a minute. We're going to define requirements architecture, define design options, and then analyze potential value and recommend solutions. So let's go a little bit more deeply into these. Specify and model requirements is just another way of saying document your requirements. They have to be written down before anything else can happen. You can't verify them, you can't validate them, you can't be sure they're right until they're written down. The BABOK has this weird idea that you're going to elicit requirements and then you're going to specify and model requirements in two totally separate acts. Most of us probably don't do it quite that way. We elicit requirements and we write them down at the same time and we show them to the people and say, is this what you meant? But the BABOK doesn't think we do it that way. So specify and model includes you model the requirements, you analyze the requirements, you represent the requirements and their attributes, and then you implement the appropriate level of abstraction. This one throws people a little bit sometimes. The appropriate level of abstraction is another way of saying granularity or how high level it is. So let's say if you were in an airplane at 40,000 feet, you're going to say, we're going to build a warehouse. That's a really high level. Yes, Cassie.
I'm sorry, yeah. Am I the only one not seeing your screen right now?
You probably are not the only one because I never shared it.
Oh,
Thank
sorry.
you,
That
Cassie.
was I was looking for that. I'm like, wait, okay. Thank you.
Cassie, you saved my bacon. Thank you, sir. Okay, so one more time. Specify and model. You go through each of these four elements to accomplish specify and model. The appropriate level of abstraction. I was talking about granularity or abstraction. Abstraction is just another way of saying how detailed, how fine tuned you get on your requirements. For instance, if you can say to the developer that you've been working with for 8 years and you're doing the same kind of project every time, say, I need an input form like the one that we had before. That may be as detailed as you need to get for that particular developer in that particular project in that situation. Usually it's going to be much more detailed. I need an input form that has these fields and it accepts this kind of information and it feeds into these tables. So you're going to have to get the appropriate level of abstraction for your requirements. Any questions on that task? And the inputs to this one are your elicitation results unconfirmed and elicitation results confirmed, which basically means in any state, any kind of elicitation results. And your output of that is going to be your requirements specified and modeled. This is when we actually get our real requirements document. Then we can move into verify requirements or validate requirements. Either one of these can take in the output of specified and modeled requirements. In verify requirements, these two are easy to get confused. Verify ends with a Y, and it's talking about the quality of requirements. So quality ends with a Y, verify ends with a Y. It's the easiest way to remember that this is quality. So what you want to do is be sure that they meet the quality standards and are usable for the purpose that they serve. So it's truly quality check. You're going to check the characteristics of requirements and designs, and you got a whole list here, and you need to understand what every one of these mean. Atomic, complete, consistent, concise, feasible, unambiguous, testable, prioritized, and understandable. This is a whole lot like SMART, but it's not SMART. You got to know this. Then you go through your verification activities where you're checking to be sure that they're high enough quality, and you go through your checklists. The output of this is going to be your requirements in verified state. Validate requirements is a totally different purpose. For validate requirements, you ensure that all requirements and designs align to the business requirements and support the delivery of needed value. You're going to see that in questions. Which state supports the delivery of needed value? The output of this is, I'm sorry, the input of this is requirements specified in model also. In this one, you're going to identify your assumptions. An assumption, in case you weren't in the previous meeting, is anything that has not been verified. Yes, Bob. I'm sorry,
Mm,
Bob is chewing. I'll give him a minute. I'll come back to you, Bob. After you,
Um, when you're done with the initial rundown, can I have the screen for a couple minutes
I can
to
do that.
give you a pictorial representation of all this?
Sure, I can do that. Okay. Identify assumptions, then you define measurable evaluation criteria, and then you evaluate alignment with solution scope. So this one is going to be really important for you to understand. I'm going to let you just read about it in the BABOK. Your output of validate requirements is, guess what? Requirements validated. Makes perfect sense, doesn't it? Then your inputs into define requirements architecture is again requirements in any state. So any of these can come into define requirements architecture. You also have your information management approach and your solution scope. I don't think there's any more. So you need all of these because your purpose in defining requirements architecture is to be sure that the requirements collectively support one another and fully achieve the objective. Requirements architecture is also how do you structure your requirements? Do you have your requirements where you identify who gave you the requirement, when you got it, what's the next thing to do on the requirement, what are the dependencies, what information, the metadata for your requirement? So for define requirements architecture, you're going to identify your requirements, viewpoints, and views. This was the thing that threw me out of the BABOK. I could not figure it out, and I had to go to the watermark book to read it. It's a concept. It's not a task. It's just a concept. Then your template architectures, whatever you're going to use, verify it for completeness, relate and verify requirements relationships, and these you also need to understand the meanings of, define necessary, correct, unambiguous, and consistent, and then get your business analysis information architecture, which is how are you going to structure all of your information? Are you going to use a table? Are you going to use a graph? That's your information architecture you're bringing in. And the output of that is going to be requirements architecture. And then into define design options, you bring in your requirements that have been prioritized. Your uh, this is from chapter 5, so it's being done at the same time. Requirements that have been validated, which is your output of this. Change strategy, and then let me grab this and pull it down. There we go. Requirements architecture goes into define design options. So you can't start define design options until you finish define requirements architecture. In define design options, the elements are your defined solution approaches. Are you going to create your solution? You're going to purchase your solution, or you're going to do a both, which is you buy something and customize it. You identify your improvement opportunities, and here's your list. For example, increase efficiencies, improve access to information, identify additional capabilities, etc. Then you have your requirements allocation, which gives you the ability to say in the first sprint or the first release or the first chunk, we're going to do these things. And Bob is going to show you this and what he's going to show you in just a minute, I have no doubt. It allows you to say to your executives and to the people that will be using it, we will have this out for you by Easter. We will have the next part out by Thanksgiving. So you can kind of give them expectations of how you're going to chunk your project in. Then you're going to describe your design options. And the output of this is your design options. The very last task in this chapter is analyze potential value and recommend solution. So at this point, you are looking at all of the ways that you can achieve your goals and your goal, your scope of that project, and say, so we could do it this way, we can do it this way, we can do it this way. If we do it this way, it's going to cost us this much money, it's going to take us this much time, and it's going to give us this much revenue. Your return on investment with everything else included. So you create all of those and get them compared. Your input for that is your potential value and your design options, which is an output of 7.5. To accomplish this, you have these elements. You have your expected benefits, your expected cost, determine value, assess design options, and recommend solution, which includes available resources, constraints on the solution, dependencies between requirements. And then your output of this is your solution recommendation. So I know that's a whole lot. If you haven't read chapter 7, this is probably overwhelming. Does anybody have any questions before I turn it over to Bob? Okay, Bob, you have the screen. And you're on mute, sir.
Yeah, I get that. All right. Okay, everyone see that?
It's coming up.
All right. So
Okay.
the way I always think about doing any project in whatever role I'm in, but particularly as a BA and particularly when I took the exam, I didn't really know the BABOK all that well. I never read it. I basically took a course in, I had this picture in mind already. Can you see my mouse? All right.
Yes.
So the reason, and have I showed you this before?
Have y'all seen this before?
Okay.
I'm thinking that's a no.
I'm thinking that's a no. So this is basically a condensed version of the SDLC, but it doesn't apply only to software. It applies to any kind of project you can do. And it's basically figure out what you're going to use the solution for, or you can think of this as the problem statement or the business need. The conceptual model is finding out what's going on now. And then requirements is figuring out what the customer needs qualitatively or conceptually. And then design actually figures out what you're gonna put together for the customer more specifically. So the conceptual model gives you the as-is state, if there is one, and the requirements gives you an abstract form of the to-be state, and the design gives you a concrete form of the to-be state. Then you implement, which means you build whatever you design, and then you test it. Why do I show it with these crazy loops? What this picture is trying to show is that you come in the process from the lower left and you iterate, which means only that you have a conversation about what the need is. And so you ask what their need is, or somebody tells you, and then you ask questions to elicit more detail or whatever you need to understand. Then you document it, then they look at it and tell you whether you documented it right. And you continue until everyone agrees that's the theory, right? And then you go to conceptual model and you find out what's going on. So that's when you do discovering data collection. And again, that's a conversation, might be multiple conversations over time or multiple in parallel. And so you ask what's going on, they explain it to you, they show you, they give you documentation, they give you data, you document everything, and you they review what you documented, and that continues until they verify you've got everything. Same thing with requirements. So remember that validate is, did I do the thing right? And then no, verify is, did I do the thing right? And validate is, did I do the right thing? So one is, does the thing I work or the thing I wrote meet the format? It works the way I intended it to. It functions, it's usable, and so on. And then validate is, does it actually answer the customer need? So you do the same thing with design. So this chapter goes into specifying model requirements, happens here. Then you validate. No, sorry, I keep doing that. You verify, then you validate. That's all part of this conversation. And then you do design, which answers the requirements. You might do multiple designs using different approaches. And then you basically figure out how much value they provide, figure out what the cost benefit is for each one, choose the one, and off you go. That, again, is a form of verification and validation. Now, once you go into building this, the verification and validation is in test. So you do all this stuff, but in reality, there's a lot of interplay, as you know, if you're a developer or worked with them. Ideally, they do a lot of testing before they ever submit code. They write unit tests, a lot of automated stuff. They may write test harnesses. Ideally, they'll have a pretty good idea of what's going on. And then, depending on your architecture, you'll have to do a whole release train of test for integration, performance, smoke tests, UI tests, everything else. And that is more of a iteration, not within a phase, but between phases. And in reality, there's always a link back, a path back, so that when you learn something that's in a later phase in that conversation, you can go back and adjust something, add something, delete something, and so on in a previous phase. And then I can speak about this all day. I'll try to keep it short. Um, Ideally, the way you'll do traceability is you'll identify a handful of intended users or maybe just one. It depends on the kind of problem you're trying to address. You'll figure out, well, what's going on that's responsive to the initial needs for the business. Then you'll figure out requirements that address what's going on and anything new. And then you'll do design, which addresses all the requirements. Then you do implementation, which addresses all the elements of the design. And then you'll do test and acceptance that addresses everything you implemented. And this is those links have to, everything pretty much has to be linked both forwards and backwards across the phases. So you're always doing work that is relevant to the business need, and you're never doing stuff that's not relative to what you need to do or responsive to that. And there's another version of this drawing. So this thing talks about the requirements architecture, and you can think of that as a tree structure. And that shows how all the elements of the design relate to each other. And I have a version of this where there's a tree structure and they all come down and marry up with they marry up with all the elements in the design. So with that, I think I'll stop. Hopefully that was helpful. Like I said, I didn't read the BABOK. When I pass this exam, this is the way I pictured everything. And now stop sharing. Thank you for your time there.
Yeah, you're muted.
Thank you. I was being brilliant. Thank you, Bob. Thank you for your expertise
Thank
and
you, Bob.
experience. And your website is pretty phenomenal if y'all haven't been there. Okay, let's get started on some test questions. Those of you who studied, we're going to see what you need to still learn. Those of you who haven't studied, do the best you can. We're going to get started. Incidentally, Chapter 7 is 30% of your test. It's more than anything else in the whole book. So we will really focus on getting Chapter 7 down good, okay? Laura, a junior business analyst, has finished detailing a set of requirements using analytical techniques. She now wants to elicit, model, and analyze the design, but she's wondering what techniques she used for this activity. What would you advise her? So if she's wanting to do this, what task is she in?
Input. Oh, wait.
Specify modeling
Sorry.
requirement.
Analyze potential value and recommend solution? What do you think? She wants to model her design.
Design, not requirements.
Oh,
Right,
gotcha.
right. And let me pull this back over. In this one, One of the thing is to determine value and assess your design options and recommend solution. But maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's one of the earlier
No,
ones.
it's 7.5.
Define design options.
Yeah.
I think you're right. So if it is that one, we've got our list of tasks right here. So what technique would she use? Since developers and testers will be using her requirements, she should collaborate with them and come up with the best techniques to use. The business analyst can only specify model requirements, not designs. The business analyst does not create designs but reviews them to ensure alignment with requirements. She should therefore package her artifacts, obtain sign-off, and pass them on to a design architect. Requirements and designs use the same techniques to specify and model. So this is another one of those that you got to answer according to the BABOK. What happens in the real world might not be applicable. So let me give it a 10 count and we'll come back and eliminate 1 or 2 or maybe 3. Okay. What do you think about this one? Is this what the BABOK says is the best answer?
I don't think so.
I don't think so.
Okay. Now, votes for A. What do you think of B?
We can eliminate.
Eliminate
eliminate B.
Eliminate B.
Eliminate
Okay.
B.
How about C?
I think it's C.
Somebody thinks it's C. Okay. And D?
Correct. Ish.
Okay. Did anybody like D?
I did.
I like D.
Okay.
I think, yeah, I like D as well.
Okay. I've got a lot of
Or in
votes.
between A and D.
Okay. So let's talk about why D might be a better answer than A, according to the BABOK. We like it, but we don't know the reason.
You use different modeling techniques for both, all right? Because the idea is to be able to um, transfer information in a usable format for the end users. So even though a design architecture might actually be carrying out the construct of the design, it's important for the BA to still model that design in order to convey it, to visualize it to the stakeholders. Right?
So did you say we use different techniques or the same technique?
Oh, what did I say? I said the same technique is what I said, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I tell you what, I've got several requests for D. Let's test D and we'll come back and find out if we're right or wrong.
D
The
is
same
correct.
techniques are used to elicit, model, and analyze both. When the focus of the specifying and model activities on understanding the need, the outputs are referred to as requirements. Guys, need and requirements, you got to get that straight because there's questions about that. When the focus on specifying and model activities on the solution, the outputs are referred to as designs. So this does not describe analyzing and modeling as it does as done in task 7.1, but it will have different techniques. So you can use the same technique for requirements and designs, and it really is a nice way to say, here's the same thing, and here's the things that you need to add.
Like I just showed you, each one is its own loop. You actually do the same thing with discovery and data collection to build the conceptual model or the as-is state. And then you do the same thing with the build and test cycle. So I don't love the fact they said the same techniques because requirements in design are materially different, but you do use the same propose, identify, verify, validate cycle. You have a continuous conversation till everyone agrees. that part is the same.
That's correct.
So
Let's move forward.
there we go.
In what task are requirements allocated to a solution component or release? So we're looking for the task name. We talked about this a little earlier. Is this define design options, verify requirements, analyze potential value and recommend solution, or specify and model requirements? So let's give you 5 count and then we'll come back and eliminate. Okay, what do we think about specifying model requirements? Is that where we allocate solution components to a release?
No, it can be eliminated.
Okay. Analyze potential value and recommend solution.
That's where I was kind of stuck. It's a potential, but I don't think it's the answer.
Okay. Verify requirements.
That can be eliminated.
Okay.
Yeah, no.
I think A.
Define design options.
I think it's A.
A.
Okay. You're correct. In define design options, we will be allocating to a release. We identify where it's at.
So, quick question, Thea. In the BAP book, it says define solution options, but I've constantly seen that through the test, and then I think the matrix you shared earlier, it referred to as define design options.
The
I'm not sure
design
if it
and the
matters, tomato,
solution,
tomato, but
the design and the solution are basically synonymous.
yeah.
It's your target. It's the solution to your problem, and you have to design your solution. So it's called the design. It's also called the solution. The senior business analyst requested that all requirements be self-contained and capable of being understood independently of other requirements or designs. Which characteristic of requirements and designs is the senior business analyst requesting? So this is the definition right here of something that I read to you a little bit earlier in verify requirements. Under characteristics of requirements and designs quality, there's a list. So
Yes.
is this the definition of consistent, complete, atomic, or unambiguous? Looks like you already know the answer.
Yes.
Somebody want to tell me what the answer is?
B.
See?
This is atomic, which is exactly what that means. Atomic means all requirements are self-contained and capable of being understood independently of other requirements or designs. It's really great whenever you're creating requirements or acceptance criteria that you can read that all by itself and you don't have to read the whole thing to understand what you're talking about. What is the primary difference between requirements and designs? Really, really important here. It depends on how they're being used and by whom. Requirements and designs are synonyms and can be used interchangeably. Requirements are the responsibility of the BA. Designs are the responsibility of the design architects. Requirements are documented in models, at which point they become designs. We give you a 10 count. Okay. Which one should we eliminate?
B.
Yeah, eliminate
I
B and
agree.
C.
Okay. What is the correct answer?
A.
A.
Okay. You are understanding this. Y'all read the chapter. Good job. You've been asked to facilitate a workshop to help clarify the scope of a solution. Your objective is so clarifying the scope of the solution. What task are we in?
Define
The
requirements.
net.
I'm trying to think.
You might be right.
Is it validate?
Yeah, I was thinking about it.
We will find out. Let's read the answers. Complete a sequence diagram for all interactions within the scope of the project. Complete business architecture for the proposed scope of the solution. Complete document analysis based on the project scope. Organize requirements based on the solution components they are related to. Let me give you a 5 count. Okay, which one should we eliminate?
A.
I'm sorry, I can't understand you, Tosin. Say it louder.
A. Sorry.
Okay. So what do we think is the correct answer?
B, maybe.
I think it might be D for Dalmatian.
I'm gonna base
Okay.
on D.
Okay, let's test D. Scope models are used to describe the scope of an analysis or the scope of a solution. Can anybody tell me what a scope model looks like? A scope model is literally a pictorial representation of the scope. If you're doing a system change and you have a context diagram, you draw a line around what's inside the scope, and you that way visually identify what's outside the scope. A scope model, if you're buying a piece of property, it's the plat map that shows you these trees are inside of your lot lines, these things are outside of your lot lines. You think you want to talk about the bench? Is it inside the line or outside the line? Yes, Bob.
That
Establishing
actually
boundaries.
strikes me, the way that answer went is kind of backwards. You do the requirements and then you do the solution in theory. But in this case, maybe they're just doing an increment or a sprint. They've got a bunch of requirements and they've identified a subset they're going to work on related to the solution. And then that's always, if you remember that diagram I had, where the things are related to each other in the traceability across phases, that there could be one-to-one, many-to-one, and one-to-many relationships in both directions.
Yes. If we said that we have a bunch of requirements for this huge project, but we're going to work on building this warehouse first, we're going to say this part of the solution, building the warehouse, we're going to get all the requirements together for that. This is a scope model. It's literally a pictorial representation of what's inside of our scope and what's outside of our scope so that people can understand exactly what it is. So whenever I'm buying lot 15, I know that I have this space here. I don't have this space over here. You can do the same thing to a context diagram. Turning it into a picture, again, is worth 1,000 words. Well, that was unfortunate. I think I've got it on another one. Hold on. Something went wrong. Okay, we may have to start over. Okay, we will not get through all 25. Elicitation results contain information of different types. Therefore, as part of specifying requirements, they can be categorized into the following categories. Which one is not a BABOK category? Transition requirements, stakeholder requirements, solution requirements, or technical requirements. Let me give you a 5 count. Okay, so 3 of these are BABOK categories, 1 is not. What do you think about transition requirements? Is that a BABOK category? Yes.
It's
Okay.
valid.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Stakeholder requirements, is this a BABOK category?
Yeah,
Yes.
that's valid.
Yes, it is.
Solution requirements, is this a BABOK category?
Yes.
Yes, it is.
Hey, technical requirements, is this a BABOK category?
No.
Technical requirements is not a category of requirements listed in the BABOK. Good job. Which of the following statements is true about specifying and modeling requirements? So 3 are false, 1 is true. Specifying and modeling requirements is the entire knowledge area. I'm sorry, it's the first task in this knowledge area. The goal is to analyze, synthesize, and refine. Only stakeholder requirements and solution requirements can be specified at the same time. Business requirements must be specified and modeled before any other type of requirements. Transition requirements are always specified and modeled last. Different types of requirements might be specified and modeled at the same time. Let me give you a 5 count. Okay, which one is that we want to eliminate? Which one is false?
B can be eliminated.
Okay,
It's
which
okay.
one do we think is true?
I think it's D.
I think
I think
D.
it's
as
D
well,
as
yeah.
well. I think so too.
Elicitation results contain information of different types, so it's natural to expect that different types of requirements might be specified and modeled at the same time. Good job, guys. A model is a descriptive and visual way to convey information to a specific audience in order to support analysis, communication, and understanding. What would a business analyst typically model? Do we model needs and requirements, requirements and solutions, requirements and designs, or needs and solutions? Let me give you a 5 count. Okay, which one can we eliminate?
Okay.
A.
And G can be eliminated. Okay.
So you
Yeah.
said we eliminate B, and
No,
which one is correct?
A
C.
and D, I said.
Oh,
Hmm?
you said D, C? I'm sorry, guys. I'm apparently having trouble hearing. So which one is right?
I think
Okay,
I think
C.
it's
Amanda
C as
says
well.
C is
Is right.
Okay, thank you. Requirements are modeled when the focus is on understanding the need. Designs are modeled when the focus is on understanding the solution. Once the requirements are, I'm sorry, let me go back. Which task is this, guys?
Specify modeling
Specify model
requirement.
requirement.
Exactly. It's talking about documenting your requirement, and that's specify and model. Once the requirements are verified, what tasks might a business analyst perform, provided that the other inputs required by the task are also
Back
available?
up, please.
Yes, Bob.
Sorry. You were also doing design in the previous question, so it can't be only 7.1.
Okay. So we are also doing define design options. Let's
Yeah,
go back to it. It says it's only 7.1.
that's not correct.
Okay.
I mean, you guys understand what's going on. I'm being subtle here, but I want to you guys not to take everything at face value. Yeah, that's it.
Okay. So once you have your other inputs available and your requirements have been verified, which means that one of the inputs into the task we're talking about is requirements are in verified status. Which task are we working on now? Is it validate requirements, identify improvement opportunities, approve requirements, and define design options? We're going to come back in 5, and y'all are going to tell me which one of these is not a task. Okay, which one should we eliminate?
B.
B.
All right.
C as well.
So if we
Yes.
have, you say B and C? Oh, B and
Mhm.
D. Okay. Is approved requirements in this chapter?
No.
No.
No. Validate is the correct answer.
So this would be A. The answer is A.
Yeah. Because that's what's next. Oh,
Oh, the answer's not
no
A.
way.
What?
We're all
why?
wrong. No way.
I don't know why it's giving us approved requirements. It is not in this chapter, is it?
Oh,
What?
verify. So are you saying that you believe the correct answer is A?
Validate is approved, right?
7.2.
I mean, it shows
Provided that other
validate.
inputs required by the task are also available.
Right. So verified requirements, requirements verified is an input.
Oh, it's
One
Oh,
shall
it's
be.
requirement
still
is
part of
task. It's
7.2.
a task.
It says
Oh,
task. Approved
It
requirements,
does say
non-task. I
task.
am totally lost.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so like in the
yeah.
BABOK 7.2.3, there's a little diagram there where it tells you the tasks that use the output is approved requirements.
Yes. Right here.
Oh,
Okay, you're right.
oh,
So
okay.
approved requirements
Weird.
and approved requirements is,
Yeah, but the approved requirements and
But then it
output.
comes from 5.5 though.
5.5.
does.
What?
Yeah, it says that's a task using the
Yeah,
output.
it's a task which is not in this chapter, but
It
then
You're
is
right.
it's in the
right.
diagram as,
So
yeah, I
Well,
don't know.
but they're right because 5.5 approved requirements is requires requirements that have been verified as an input and the designs. So if you have those two, you can do this task, which is what it was asking. It was just I was limited in my thinking we're only in chapter 7, but apparently we're not. Yes,
It's
Amanda.
potential
Yeah.
weakness of the
Well,
I'm confused.
BABOK
I
that
was,
Yeah,
yeah.
this
I
was
thought we were
not
strictly exclusively on chapter
necessarily in
7.
order.
So if it's a mixed
Yeah.
bag,
Well, on the BABOK, this is diagram figure 7.2.1, and it's got verify requirements input output diagram in the BABOK. So it's
Mm-hmm.
got 7.1 requirements specified, and then verify requirements verified, and then it's got tasks using this output is, oh, the task is the 5.5 that
right.
uses the output.
Right.
Okay.
Amanda, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, so what would be the input into validate requirements? Or
Input
the other,
into validate requirements. Let's look at it.
or the flip side of that question is what other tasks would verify requirements be an input into?
Fanish, you want to tell us what other requirements you said verify requirements?
Use verify requirements. If it's
Okay, so that's going to be
It's only-
7.2. What
Yeah.
are the tasks that use the output of 7.2?
Requirements instead of, I don't understand the question.
7 point, just it's not the question. We're asking you a totally different question now. Whenever you do the task verify requirements, your output is requirements verified. So that's 7.2. Look at the
Right.
output and see what tasks use that output for their input.
Yes.
Oh,
5.5.
5.5. That's what I think that's what you're asking.
Yep,
I see
I think you're
5.5.
right.
Yeah.
So then
Requirements verified.
5.5 approve
Yeah.
requirements.
So then what input is used for the task validate requirements? It must have been
Validate.
verified requirements.
So the
So look at
validate,
output of 7.3 and see what task use that output.
so the task using 7.3 is 7.5 design or define design options, and 8.1 measure solution performance.
Okay.
Here we are.
Oh, validated.
I don't
Inputs.
have that
Wait,
for 8.1. I need to check
So
that.
it's
It's just in the next diagram.
validate requirements, input, output. So you input 7.1 requirements specified and modeled, and then you validate requirements, which is 7.3. And then the output is 7.3 requirements validated. And then the task using this output is 7.5 define design options.
okay.
Is that what it says?
Define design options. I've got that.
And
And then
8.1.
8.1 measure solution performance.
Okay. Apparently I needed to update mine. Thank you very much. Okay. I'll go back and verify that later. Okay, let's get back to the questions. Are you good with that, Amanda?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Sometimes it's like a big spider web. You just have to follow
Yep.
all those strings to get there.
Great. Yep.
What is a business model canvas? If you've ever used this, it's super powerful. If you've not used it, you get to learn now. It's a technique that describes a rationale for requirements, a model that describes requirements in picture form, a process that describes the rationale for requirements, or a business modeling tool for drawing pictures. I'm going to give you a 5 count. We'll come back and eliminate. Okay. Which one can we eliminate?
D.
And what is the correct answer?
A.
I think it's
I think.
A.
I've got 1 vote for A.
Yeah, I'll go second vote. Oh,
You're correct. A business model canvas is a technique that describes the rationale for requirements. Super, super powerful technique.
I get that one always mixed up with the other one. What's the other one called? Oh, there are so many. Capability map, and then there's another one that uses I'll find it. I'll put it in the chat. There's a few that I always conflate them.
I understand. I conflate as well. A data dictionary contains 2 types of data elements. What are they? Are they simple and complex, unvariable and multivariable, primitive and advanced, or primitive and composite? I'll give you a 5 count. Okay, which one is not the right answer? Anybody have a suggestion on an elimination?
Eliminate B, maybe.
Okay. And which one do we feel like is the right answer?
I have a feeling that it's either C or D. I can't remember. I think I'm operating on memory. I don't think it's A. I don't think that's incorrect. But I can't remember which one is. I can't remember. Should we Google it?
Okay, I've got a vote for C and a vote for D. I need a tiebreaker.
Like I couldn't tell you what those 2 types were.
I don't know. Yeah.
What is it?
I'll toss my name in the hat to see.
Yeah, I kept going with C just because, yeah, well.
Okay, let's try C.
A. Correct is D.
It's composite.
D.
So whenever you're thinking of types of data elements, I always think of epoxy. It's a composite. You got to put 2 things together. So it's primitive and epoxy. Yes, Bob.
If you are familiar with coding, then primitive is individual data elements, and
Okay.
composite or records or objects that have multiple values.
That kind of explains probably where they got the name.
That's helpful.
I
Okay.
had to read that myself. I had no idea until
Oh, I
I
thought you were being
was
brilliant.
today years old when I learned this.
Okay. The lead business analyst planned an event to analyze the potential value of each design option and recommend a solution. What inputs would be needed to accomplish this task? So if this is what he or she is trying to do, which task is this?
Is analyze potential value and recommend solution. Oh,
That's
7.6.
right. It's just that easy. So the inputs needed to do that are they, let's see, I've got potential value in 3 and not 1. Is potential value needed?
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Okay, so we can eliminate D. And then the other option, is it business objectives, design options, or risk analysis results?
Design options.
It's
Okay.
B. It's design
B.
These are the inputs into the analyze potential value and recommend solution task. I'm going to ask y'all to hold on just a second. I need to go check on my husband.
Okay.
Talk amongst yourselves.
Talk amongst yourselves. So my husband has had 3 surgeries. He's about to have spine surgery. So whenever I hear a big boom in the other room, it's like, oh, I should see if he's fallen. He doesn't often fall, and he looks at me like, what's wrong with you? But I gotta check. Okay. Carmen has been hired as a senior business analyst on an ongoing effort. Initial elicitation activities have been done, and now she's determining the best way to transform and represent the elicitation results into requirements in order to define the change. What would Carmen consider when modeling the requirement? So she's in specify and model, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she's determining the best way to transform and represent them into requirements to define the change. So she's in specify and model. Should she consider the solution, audience, and value, the context, audience, and purpose, the purpose, change, and context, or the change, need, and context? So let's give you a 5 count. Okay, what do we think is the wrong answer? What can we eliminate?
A.
B.
B. B as in boy?
Yeah.
Okay. And what do we think is the correct answer?
D.
D as in
D.
dog?
D.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh.
Okay, so change and need are not one of the considerations when determining the form. What we want to talk about is the context, audience, and purpose. So who is going to be receiving this model? If we're talking to developers, they need a very different thing than if we're talking to executives or the business, right?
Yeah.
So you got to consider your audience. You also have to consider your context and what the purpose of that particular model is. The
Can
form
anybody identify what page that's on?
It's going to be in the description or purpose of chapter 7.
Isn't there a concept called views or viewpoints, which is like perspectives that will influence
There is.
but where is that in this
Here
chapter?
it
Or is that
is.
another chapter?
Yes.
Context.
Views and viewpoint.
Purpose.
I remember reading
Where
that.
is it?
Audience and purpose. Yeah.
What page?
What page is
It's
B
on
on?
page 133, the uh the third paragraph. It says the form, level of detail, and what is being modeled are all dependent on the context, audience, and purpose.
So as Thea points out all the time, every single word in the BABOK is subject to showing up on the test. You have no prayer of memorizing everything to that level of detail. So don't beat yourself up if you miss something subtle like this. If you really understand what's going on conceptually, you'll be fine on the exam. That doesn't mean go easy. Doesn't mean don't study, but it means don't expect to be perfect. You don't need to be.
I do want to say that I have many people that have told me that they feel like it's really important that to be able to pass the test that you've read the BABOK at least 3 times. Sometimes they say 4, but here's the deal. Some of the questions are literally one sentence in the BABOK. It says, here's a situation that BAs encounter and here's how to handle it. And it's like, if you skip that sentence, you're not going to get that question right. And again, chapter 7 is 30% of your test. I've seen that statistic for years. I don't have any reason to believe that it's not true. In fact, that's published by the IIBA. So, chapter 7, read it. Read it in the BABOK and then read it in the watermark book. Susan thinks she's done with her requirements analysis on a project. Her project manager sent her a terse email telling her she's not done yet. He also sent her the business objectives and potential value for the project and asked her to complete one more important task to ensure the requirements support the business case. What activity does she need to complete? So what activity requires you to use the business objectives and potential value in chapter 7? Is it requirements verification, obtain approval for the requirements validation, or identify any missing or incorrect requirements? I'll give you a 10 count. Okay, which ones can we eliminate?
It's C. Let's see.
How are we eliminating C?
No. I'm saying C is the answer.
Oh, C is the answer. I'm like,
Yeah.
wait a minute, are you sure
Yeah.
on this?
No, I say it's C. Yeah.
Requirements validation helps ensure the requirements provide basic business value and meet business need. Good job, Lincoln.
Thank you.
The lead business analyst has engaged you to outline the design possibilities that would satisfy a set of requirements on the project. Which set of activities is the lead business analyst involved in? So outline the design possibilities that would satisfy a set of requirements on a project. Can anybody tell me what task this is?
Define design options.
Define design options. And so if it's define design options, let's look at these. Determine expected benefits or define solution approaches. Which one of those two is it?
Define solution
Okay,
approaches.
so it's not going to be this one. Define solution approaches is one of them. That means it's also not going to be this one. Identifying improvement opportunities is in both. Requirements allocation is in both. This one has describing design options. Is that one of them?
Represent design options is? I don't know about describing design options. Are they?
Yeah,
So
I
do
don't
we
think
feel
of
like it's B or C?
I would say
The purpose says blah blah blah, and represent design
B.
options that achieve the desired future state. So maybe it's B.
B.
Okay,
Don't want to
I've
pick
got
the
2
wrong
votes
answer.
for B. These are correct. These are the elements in defined design options in which the business analyst is engaged. So defined design options, let's look at this. Define solution approaches, describe design options. So that's what we were looking at here. Describe design options. Okay. I think we can get to maybe 20. Requirements may be modeled using a variety of formats. Which of the following correctly lists the types of requirement formats? So this is a very specific list. Are they text, matrices, graphical, logical, physical, formal, informal, text, matrices, diagrams, or throwaway, evolutionary, and functional? Let me give you a 10 count. Okay, which one do we want to eliminate?
B.
You say C?
D.
No.
B.
E
Okay,
or
we're
B.
eliminating B. And which one is the right
D.
answer?
C.
C is the
I'm
right
getting
answer.
C is the right answer. Okay. It sounds every C, D, and B are all sound exactly the same through me. I don't know what's wrong. I'm not gonna say it's my ears because I don't want to claim that.
Use the phonetic alphabet.
Wait, that would be great. Or say D as in dog. I can get it that way. What is the
Alpha, Bravo, Charlie,
Yeah,
Delta.
Okay,
military style like that, Bob.
I like it. What is the purpose of creating user stories when specifying requirements? So you need to know the purpose for creating user stories, period, out of the techniques chapter. Is it to prevent scope creep? To specify requirements is a brief statement about what people do or need to do when using a solution. To specify a set of interactions between a system and one or more actors. To represent the acceptance and evaluation criteria attributes of requirements. So only one of these is the purpose of creating user stories. I'll give you a 5 count. Okay, which one can we eliminate?
A.
Yeah.
And which one do we think is the right answer?
I think it's B for Bravo.
Bravo! This is the purpose for using user stories as a technique in the specified model requirements task. Very good. What is the purpose of item tracking when verifying requirements? Item tracking has a very specific definition in the BABOK. Is the purpose to ensure the appropriate checklist is used to resolve the issues or problems by the planned date? Ensure the problems and issues identified during the verification are managed and resolved? Ensure the problems identified are reported to the help desk, or ensure the problems or issues identified during verification are escalated to the project manager to track resolution. I'm going to give you a 5 count. Okay, what can we eliminate?
Delta.
Delta, we eliminate Delta.
C as in Charlie.
Charlie, what is the right answer?
B.
B as in Babok.
Is in Babak. Yeah.
You're correct. The purpose of using item tracking is to ensure that problems and issues identified during verification are managed and resolved. Data about data can best be described as what? Is it entities, metadata, attributes, or data models? I'm going to give you a 5 count. Okay, what can we eliminate?
Alpha,
D,
Charlie, Delta.
D, A.
D.
A.
D is
Are
in
we
dog.
thinking it's B then?
Yeah, it's
Yep.
B.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
It's
D.
Bravo.
This literally means data about data.
Mm-hmm.
Metadata describes that what the entities represent, when and why they were created or changed, how they should be used, how often they're used, when and by whom. In essence, metadata is the information or data about data.
Quick question, Thea. I know the BABOK has a different definition for the data dictionary and the metadata. I think to confuse them a little bit.
Okay, so data dictionary is something like this. The name field shall be 32 characters and cannot accept numbers.
Okay.
I mean, it's going to tell you exactly how to use a field. Does anybody else have a different example for a data dictionary entry?
Well, it'll show, it might say, it might include a lot of things. Where the data comes from, who gives it to you, how you collect it, what format it's in, how it's used, who it's used, what are acceptable formats and value ranges. What can it be part of? How can it be used? How can it be tested and verified? There's an almost infinite number of ways you can describe data and include it in a data dictionary. It's usually much more straightforward than that. Think about a little bit of operational where it came from and a little bit of what does a programmer need to use to process it and build a UI screen for it.
So metadata is data about data, and a data dictionary is a structured way to lay out all that information in a way that you can have a single source of truth. Does that make sense, Cassie? All right.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you for your question. Which of the following output describes the requirements and the interrelationships among them, as well as any contextual information that is recorded? This is what it's describing. Is this information management approach, requirements architecture, information architecture, or requirements traced? Give you a 5 count. Okay, what are we going to eliminate?
C, as in cat.
Thank you. I knew exactly which one you meant. What do we think is the correct answer?
Bravo.
B is
B
in
is in
boy.
Bravo.
Bravo. B for Bravo.
The question describes the output of the defined requirements architecture task. Very good.
You typic.
What are the 3 typical components of a user story? Is it, let me just say, does it start with who or what?
Who.
Ooh.
Okay, I'm going to eliminate that one. And then the next one is what on all of these? And then is it when, how, or why?
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 So that.
So that. Correct.
Note that there's no mandatory structure for user stories. This structure, the role, goal, and motivation, is the most popular. When I was writing this, I wanted to give examples, and they wouldn't let me give examples of different kinds of user stories. But it is the role, goal, and motivation. As a what role is it? I want the goal, and so
Okay.
that I can get this thing done. How is the solution core concept in the business analysis core concept model applied to the requirements analysis and design definition knowledge area? So for this whole knowledge area right here, we're going backwards into the BACCM and we're looking at the solution. Is it potential value of the solution options are analyzed and quantified? Potential solution options are defined and the one that is most likely to address the need and has the most value is recommended. The circumstances that influence and provide understanding of the change are considered when determining solution performance measures. The performance of a solution is examined and assessed to see if it is delivering the potential value. So I'm going to give you a 5 count. We'll come back and eliminate. Okay, which one do we want to eliminate?
D as in Delta can be eliminated.
And which
C,
one do we feel is correct?
B as in Bravo.
Bravo.
This answer does represent the solution core concept. Potential solutions options are defined, and the one that is most likely to address the need and has the most value is recommended. Which one is not the true about a class in the data model? So if it's a class in the data model, we know that it's a class diagram, right? So 3 of these are true, 1 of these is not. A class contains operations that describe what can be done with the class. A class has relationships with other classes. A class contains attributes, or a class defines an entity's allowable values. So let me give you a 5 count. We'll come back and identify each one at a time. Okay. Is this what happens in a data model that's a class diagram?
But we're looking at what's not true.
It's not,
Right.
yeah.
So is this
What's not
it is
true?
true or not true?
I think it is
It
true.
is true.
Okay. How about this one?
That's true, right?
Okay. How about this one? Okay, this is a maybe. How about this one? Does it define allowable values?
I would go for Charlie.
Yeah, that's the essence of it. I'm kind of confused between the actual database world versus the artifact itself. But
I've got 1 vote for C.
Yep.
I'd be guessing this one, 100%.
I would go
Okay.
D.
D. D is
D's
it.
the
This is a
method.
definition of an attribute, which
Mm.
kind of messed up because it contains
Yeah.
attributes.
Yeah,
About
it's
that.
confusing.
If you know object-oriented programming, an object, which is basically a fancy word for a record or a collection of attributes, those are the individual data items, and then the functions that are associated with that. So I can have define a bunch of shapes like a dot or a line, which is defined by 2 dots and a line between them, maybe a color. And then a circle is a center point and a radius, and a square is 4 points and a color and some other things. But they all have functions, so you go through a list of all the shapes and say, go draw yourself, go write yourself to a file. So the attributes or the data items individually, the operations are basically the functions. A class has relationships with other classes through inheritance. It either has parents or children or both. And
Bob,
then
I think you
they're
lost us.
talked about in the data dictionary might have information about the values, but that's not part of the structure of the class itself. Might
Okay.
be in the functions may test for certain values, but it's really a form of metadata.
Okay. If y'all are confused about class diagrams, cardinality, crow's foot notation, all of those things, the techniques group 6 is the one that has all that in it. I highly encourage you to go through those. Okay, let's get into 2 more. Which of the following best describes some of the characteristics, some means not all, of the characteristics of requirements and design quality? Remember that list that I read to you earlier? So atomic is in our list, right? So we can
Yes.
eliminate this one possibly. They all have concise, they all have feasible, they all have unambiguous. Estimated, approved, or prioritized.
Mm.
Oh,
I think it was
Prioritized.
true.
I'm going to say prioritized.
Prioritized.
Very happy to be proven wrong on
Prioritized.
that one.
Test
Just a
it.
guess.
Atomic,
Understandable,
concise, feasible.
unambiguous.
Right.
Yeah, D.
Very good. And one more. Jonathan is a business analyst on an effort and is validating requirements. Which one of the following activities would Jonathan not be performing? So if he's validating requirements, it means he's going to be doing 3 of these things and not one. Is he going to be evaluating alignment with solution scope? Is he going to be defining measurable evaluation criteria? Is he identifying solution validation criteria? Or is he identifying assumptions? So go back to the validating requirements task and look at the elements in it. And I'll give you a 10 count. Okay. Is he going to be doing this one?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Is he going to be doing this one?
Yes.
Okay. Is he going to be doing this one?
Nope.
Yes.
Yes and no both on that one. How about this one? Is he doing this one?
Yes, identify assumptions is one of the elements.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe.
So do you like C?
Yeah, let's go with Charlie.
Charlie got it. There's no such thing as solution validation criteria. So let's check these. The exam submit. We answered 20 out of 25. That means we got 3 wrong out of and 17 correct. That means we got a 85, I think. 82, something like that.
85.
Pretty darn good for the first time going through chapter 7. Yes, y'all did really, really well. Now, I noticed several of you were speaking up and several of you weren't. I don't know if that means the people that didn't speak up don't know, or you do know and you just weren't speaking up. I want to stay in chapter 7 at least 2 weeks, 2 more weeks, because this is critical that you really have it down. And I really encourage you to not only study chapter 7 in the Babok and read the watermark for chapter 7, but if you haven't been going through the techniques pamphlets, workbooks that I put together, at least go through them if you can. I mean, I really feel like you need to know the techniques for the test, okay? Okay, guys, I will see you here next Thursday night. I'm going to stay on without the recording to have a conversation, and I will see y'all later. Thank you.
See ya.
Have a
Thanks,
good one, all.
Bob.
Take
Thanks,
care.
everyone.
Thank you.
Good night.
Thanks, Bob.
Thank you.